And what else do I want to say? I'm here as a witness against torture, which is this grassroots organization that went to Guantanamo in December of 2005, and we went with the intention of visiting the prisoners, and we walked from Santiago to Guantanamo. We got as close as we could, but the U.S. military base there is surrounded. The United States is not just occupying Iraq, it's not just occupying Afghanistan, it's occupying Cuba. This U.S. military base that's on Cuba it's occupying Cuban territory. And so it's surrounded by a Cuban military zone. The Cubans couldn't let us in unless the Americans were going to let us in on the U.S. side. So we camped there for 4 days or 5 days, I can't remember, because we weren't eating, and so everything kind of pushes together.
You were eating the dirt on the path that you took to get to Guantanamo Bay. That was intense.
That was intense. We fasted and vigiled there and hoped that our intention would cover the rest of the distance separating us from the prisoners at Guantanamo. And we found out months later that the prisoners somehow, and we don't know how they knew that we were there. And they had while we were there in December of 2005, they were aware of our presence. And we found that out months later from one of the lawyers for Yemeni detainees at Guantanamo. And they said, they sent a message through their lawyer, Tom Wilner, saying, tell those people that we knew they were there, we knew they were there when they were there, and many of these men were doing a hunger strike at the time, and the hunger strike was directed at the American people. That the courts were closed to them, the international community was not, the Congress was closed to them, all of these roads were closed to them, but they fasted and hunger struck so that the American people would be moved to do something. And they said, these Yemeni prisoners sent this message that their hope had been kindled and their sort of faith in humanity had been raised up just a little bit by the fact that there were Americans who were there and were there on their behalf. So it was an incredibly moving experience and profound experience for all of us. And in some ways, going to Guantanamo and doing this walk and fasting was easy compared to the political struggle that we have to be doing here to shut down Guantanamo. So, and that's only one piece of the much larger work, right? Even, Guantanamo is just one small piece of this architecture of secret prisons, this architecture of torture, and then when we talk about the war and we talk about imperialism and the pie or the problem or whatever the metaphor is, of all the things that we need to be engaged with and resisting and taking very, very personally, taking to heart, working against, it's enormous. And Guantanamo is just a really small part of that, even though it, in and of itself, it seems very large sometimes. So that's a little bit about the Guantanamo work. So I invite you all to join us on January 11th. There are blue flyers over on the table. And there will be a demonstration here in New York City as well on the same day at Foley Square, which is sort of in the court district in Manhattan. I guess the one other thing I'll say, wearing my War Resisters League hat, and I have some War Resisters League material over on the table there. The WRL was founded in 1923 when the largest, oldest secular pacifist organization in this country, and that's a lot of qualifiers before largest secular pacifist organization. But one of the things that we're really working on right now is war tax resistance, right? Alexander Haig said, he was Secretary of State under Reagan, he said, let them march all they want. They can march. You guys can march. Go for it. As long as you keep paying your taxes, this war and our foreign policy will continue to move on the way it is. 50 cents on every dollar that we give to the federal government is sucked right into the war project and the war machine. So on little yellow pieces of paper over on that table, we have some really great information calling people to even a symbolic war tax resistance for 2008, to remove just some small piece of our culpability and complicity from the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, just all of the ways in which our military is impacting the world. So it's a tough, kind of scary thing to do, to take on the IRS, and in some sense it is easier to march than to do this solitary action. But if enough of us do it, and that's what the WRL is calling for in 2008. If enough of us do it, it will make an impact. Even $100 from each of us here, those of us who pay taxes, will take a little bit of that money for the war out of the hands of the Pentagon, out of the hands of the Bush administration. So those are just sort of a few random thoughts for you this afternoon, and I just really want to end by saying thank you. Thanks to all the folks who worked on this afternoon, and thank you to all of you who are working so hard, even when it's not easy and convenient to be for peace and against war. So thanks.